There is a strange, almost ghostly phenomenon happening right now in the gaming world. Usually on the first day of November, the internet is loud. It is the time of year when the massive marketing machine of Activision roars to life. We are used to seeing social media timelines flooded with clips. We are used to seeing servers crashing under the weight of millions of eager players trying to log in at the exact same second. We are used to the cultural dominance that comes with a new Call of Duty launch. It is supposed to be an event, a holiday, a moment where the entire industry stops to look at the king of first-person shooters. But yesterday, something different happened. Something that should terrify the executives sitting in their high-rise offices. We witnessed what might be the quietest, most concerning launch in the history of the franchise. We are not talking about a small dip in interest or a mixed reception. We are looking at a statistical crater, a void where the hype used to be. The silence surrounding the launch of Black Ops 7 is louder than any marketing campaign they could have run. It suggests that the king might finally be bleeding out. And for the first time in 2 decades, the wound looks fatal. It is easy to dismiss this silence. It is easy for the die-hard fans to say that the internet is just being negative, or that people are just hating for the sake of hating. But when you strip away the opinions, when you ignore the Twitter arguments and the Reddit threads, and you look strictly at the cold, hard data, a horrifying picture starts to form. The terrifying part is not that the game is broken. In fact, early reports suggest it is technically sound. The terrifying part is that the community has seemingly decided they just do not care anymore. And the numbers we are about to look at are not just bad. They are a sign that the tectonic plates of the gaming industry have shifted beneath our feet without us even realizing it. Let us get straight into the uncomfortable truth that the industry defenders are trying desperately to hide. We need to talk about the Steam charts. Now I know what some of you are thinking. You are thinking that Steam is just one platform. You are thinking it does not represent the console market. And we will get to that. But Steam represents the most hardcore, dedicated, and data-transparent audience in gaming. It is the pulse of the industry. When Black Ops 7 went live, everyone expected the usual surge. Analysts predicted hundreds of thousands of players. Instead, the game peaked at roughly 86,000 concurrent players on Steam. Let that number sink in. 86,000. For an indie game, that is a dream. For a mid-budget title, that is a success. But for Call of Duty, for the biggest entertainment property on the planet, it is an absolute disaster. It is a catastrophe. To understand the gravity of this failure, we cannot just look at that number in a vacuum. We have to look back exactly 1 year ago. When Black Ops 6 launched, it did not just perform well. It dominated. It peaked at upwards of 306,000 concurrent players. That is the benchmark. That is what a healthy launch looks like. So do the math with me. In the span of just 12 months, the franchise has lost nearly 72% of its Steam player base on launch day. 3/4 of the audience just evaporated. They did not just forget to log in, they made a conscious decision not to show up. And before you think this is just a genre-wide slump, or that maybe first-person shooters are dying out, look at the competition. The contrast is humiliating. On the exact same day that Black Ops 7 was struggling to hit 90,000 players, other games were thriving. Arc Raiders, a title that does not have a fraction of the marketing budget or brand recognition of Call of Duty, was soaring over 400,000 concurrent players. It was quadrupling the numbers of Activision's flagship title. But the real insult, the real sign that the hierarchy has changed. Look at Battlefield. For years, Battlefield has been the punching bag of the genre. It has had failed launches, broken games, and community backlashes that nearly killed the series. And yet, Battlefield 6, which released in the same window, was sitting comfortably at 271,000 players on Steam. Think about what that means. A damaged franchise like Battlefield is currently outperforming a brand new Black Ops title by a factor of 3. The market is not shrinking. The players are still there. They are still hungry for shooters. They are just choosing to go anywhere but Call of Duty. The monopoly is over. The players have realized they have options. And for the first time, they are exercising that freedom. As soon as these disastrous numbers went public, the defense force came out in full swing. If you go on social media right now, you will see the same copy and pasted argument over and over again. The narrative being spun is that the Steam charts are irrelevant because of Xbox Game Pass. The argument goes like this. Because Black Ops 7 launched on Game Pass, all the PC players simply migrated to the Microsoft Store to play for free, instead of buying it on Steam. On the surface, that sounds like a logical explanation. It sounds like a comforting safety blanket for fans who do not want to admit the game is failing. But there is a massive, gaping hole in that theory that nobody wants to address. And once you see it, the entire excuse falls apart. Black Ops 6 was also a Day 1 Game Pass title. We are not comparing a game that was exclusive to Steam against a game that is on a subscription service. The exact same variables existed a year ago. When Black Ops 6 launched, players had the exact same choice. They could pay full price on Steam, or they could use their Game Pass subscription. The ecosystem was identical. Yet despite Game Pass availability last year, over 300,000 people still chose to buy and play Black Ops 6 on Steam. They preferred the platform enough to pay for it, or they simply did not want to use the Microsoft app. So if the availability has not changed and the platform options have not changed, why did the player count evaporate? Why did 200,000 people who bought the game on Steam last year decide not to buy it this year? It proves undeniably that this is not a platform migration issue. This is not about people switching stores. It is a product interest issue. The Game Pass shield is just a convenient lie to cover up a massive decline in organic demand. People did not switch to Game Pass, they just did not play the game. So why is this happening? What caused such a massive drop in interest? The core issue driving this apathy seems to be a profound branding crisis. For months leading up to the release, the internet has been calling Black Ops 7 a glorified DLC. And honestly, it is hard to blame them. When players look at the game, they see the same engine. They see similar assets. They see a user interface that looks identical to the last two games. They see a visual style that is virtually indistinguishable from the previous year's entry. Even though the actual gameplay feel has improved, the optical perception is that this is Black Ops 6.5. We are seeing the consequences of the Modern Warfare 3 disaster from a few years ago. Do you remember that? When Activision released what was clearly an expansion pack and charged $70 for it, the community has not forgotten. That moment broke the trust. It taught players to be skeptical. It taught them that a new release does not actually mean a new game. This perception has created a psychological barrier. Asking players to drop $70 or even just dedicate their time to a game that looks and feels like an expansion pack. That is a hard sell in today's economy. The new game smell is gone. We are seeing the consequences of an annual release cycle that refuses to innovate visually. Players are looking at this package and deciding that a slight movement upgrade and a few new maps are not worth the investment. They feel like they are being sold the same product twice, and they are tired of it. But it is not just about the price tag or the graphics. There is a much more sinister element at play here, one that alienated the hardcore community right before the finish line. For weeks, there was buzz about a new system. The developers hinted at open matchmaking. For the uninitiated, open matchmaking was the holy grail. It was the promise of returning to the old days of Call of Duty. No strict algorithms manipulating your experience. No engagement-optimized matchmaking designed to keep you addicted. Just you, your connection, and a random lobby of players. It was the selling point that brought a lot of lapsed players back into the conversation. It felt like the developers were finally listening to a decade of feedback. It felt like a peace offering. Then just 2 days before launch, the rug was pulled. The announcement came down that the strict skill-based matchmaking system would be in full effect, alongside a secondary closed system. It was a bait and switch of epic proportions. The backlash was immediate. Pre-orders were canceled. Social media caught fire. A massive chunk of the enthusiastic player base felt lied to. You have to understand the psychology here. These players were ready to come back. They had their wallets out, they were excited. And then, at the last possible second, Activision reminded them exactly why they left in the first place. When you combine a DLC perception with a feeling of betrayal by the developers, you create the perfect storm for a launch day exodus. You turned your biggest evangelists into your biggest detractors overnight. Now, let us dismantle the final line of defense using the fanboys' own logic. I want to talk about the math, because the math does not lie. There is a popular talking point floating around Twitter right now. Defenders of the game are saying Steam only accounts for 5% of the total player base. They imply that millions are playing on PlayStation and Xbox, making the Steam drop irrelevant. Let us play that game. Let us assume their numbers are correct. Let us assume Steam really is only 5% of the total market. If Black Ops 6 had 300,000 players on Steam last year, and that represented 5% of the total, that would imply a total launch population of roughly 6 million players globally. That is a massive, healthy ecosystem. 6 million people playing day one, that is a success story. But now, let us apply that exact same 5% logic to Black Ops 7. With its 86,000 Steam players, if that represents 5%, then the total global player count would barely scratch 1.7 million. Do you see the problem? You cannot have it both ways. You cannot use the low percentage argument to dismiss the Steam data without also admitting that the total global population has tanked by millions of players. Whether Steam is 5%, 10%, or 20% of the market, the downward trend line is identical. The slope is negative. If the sample size on Steam dropped by 70%, it is statistically probable that the console audience dropped by a similar margin. The platform preference does not insulate the game from the general lack of interest. The player base is shrinking at an alarming rate, and no amount of fanboy math can hide that reality. Here is the most ironic and, frankly, the most tragic part of this entire saga. Black Ops 7 is actually a good game. I know it sounds crazy to say that after everything we just discussed, but the reports from those who are actually playing are positive. They indicate that the movement is fluid, the gunplay is snappy, the omni-movement mechanics open up new skill gaps. The overall fun factor is significantly higher than Black Ops 6. We are looking at a scenario where the developers, the people actually coding the game, designing the maps, and balancing the weapons, actually delivered a superior product. They did their jobs, they made a better shooter. But it does not matter, and that is the tragedy. The brand damage done by Activision over the last few years is finally catching up to them. The corporate decisions, the aggressive monetization, the deceptive marketing, and the refusal to listen to the community have created a toxic environment that no amount of good gameplay can fix. The ghost of Modern Warfare 3 and the exhaustion of the Battle Pass model have poisoned the well. It does not matter if the water is finally clean if nobody trusts the village well anymore. A genuinely fun arcade shooter is being buried under the weight of corporate greed. The game is being punished for the sins of its predecessors. It is unfair to the developers, but it is the reality of the market. Trust takes years to build, but only seconds to break. And Activision has been breaking it for years. We also have to acknowledge the simple factor of human exhaustion. We are 20 years into this franchise. For 2 decades, we have been running around the same 3-lane maps, shooting the same AK-47s, and grinding for the same camo patterns. There was a time when Call of Duty felt essential. If you did not play it, you were left out of the conversation at school or work. But that fear of missing out is gone. The burnout is real. The average gamer is older now, they have less time. And when they see a new game that demands hundreds of hours of grinding to unlock attachments for a gun they have already leveled up in 6 previous games, they just feel tired. The continuous, relentless annual cycle has finally hit the wall of diminishing returns. People are looking at Black Ops 7 and saying, I have done this before. I have done this 10 times before, and I do not think I have the energy to do it again. The dopamine hit is gone, the novelty is gone, and without that, all you have is a $70 chore. So what does this mean for the future? Is Call of Duty dead? No, of course not. Call of Duty is too big to vanish overnight. It is like McDonald's or Marvel. It will continue to exist. It will continue to make money. But the era of dominance, the era where it was the undisputed king of the industry, that is officially over. The Steam charts are just the canary in the coal mine. And right now, that canary is not singing. It is lying on the floor of the cage. We are witnessing a slow-motion collapse. Activision will likely scramble. In a few weeks, we will probably see a free trial weekend, earlier than usual. We might see the game go on sale by Christmas, something that used to be unheard of for a new release. They will try to pump the numbers up artificially. They will release glowing press releases about hours played instead of units sold to hide the truth from the shareholders. But the damage is done. The community has realized that they do not need this game. They have realized that the grass is greener on other battlefields. They have realized that they can have fun in Arc Raiders or Battlefield or any number of other titles that respect their time and their intelligence. If Activision does not drastically change their approach, if they do not embrace transparency, real innovation, and value, Black Ops 7 will not be remembered as the game that saved the franchise. It will be remembered as the turning point. The moment the Titan finally started to bleed. The moment the unbeatable giant looked down and realized it was fighting a war it could no longer win. This is not just a bad launch, this is a message. And for the sake of the future of first-person shooters, we can only hope that Activision is finally ready to listen. Because if they do not, there might not be anyone left to buy Black Ops 8.